Now, from time to time, I will feed my plant. Now, let me correct that. From time to time, I'll feed my soil whenever my plants look as though they're starving. The same way you look at your child and you know it's hungry, I treat my plants the same way. So from time to time, I'll provide them with feeding. The soil, that is. My name is Marie, and this is my container garden. Now, one of the biggest mistakes we make as gardeners, and that include myself, because I'm learning as I go, and as I learn, I share that with you. One of the biggest mistakes we make is to feed or fertilize our plants rather than to feed our soil. It is important that you focus on feeding your soil rather than to fertilize your plants. And I'm going to explain to you what the difference is today and how exactly you keep your soil living and feeding your plants, and so you don't have to do that. This is composted rabbit manure that I just added to my soil and my cabbage is currently growing in. And this is just one of the many different organic matter that you can add to your soil in order to increase the nutrients in the soil. Whenever you add organic matter, it attracts insects. If you should dig around in your soil, you should see insects moving around in there. That is what you refer to as the living soil. And so when you add these organic matter, including compost, whatever it is that you add in there, kitchen scraps and so on, it will increase the fertility of the soil. And so the soil will then feed the roots of your plants rather than you. Well, I'll get into details as it relates to the fertilizer as against using organic material to feed the soil rather than to just feed your plants and just get one immediate burst. But let's get into that in detail, and so you will understand why now I only use organic matter as in my liquid fertilizer and my dry manure and so on. I only use that to fertilize. Not even organic store-bought fertilizer do I use. Now let's talk about the microbes that exist in the soil whenever we use organic material. Now this black cocoa we planted just a couple of weeks together. It's not a month yet since we planted this cocoa, and for it to be doing this well, it must be due to healthy soil. No, healthy soil is filled with beneficial bacteria and fungi, and these bacteria they help to break down the organic material in the soil in order for the roots to absorb them. If you should take a look at the soil, all of this, I have manure. I think this is chicken manure and soil that I placed in there when I was planting it, along with dry leaves and mulch. What I usually do is I cut whatever leaves and whatever I clean around the area, I place it in the containers and then plant in them. And because of the microbes that are in there, those are living organisms. They break down those organic material in the soil in order for the roots to absorb them. I hope I'm explaining it the way it makes sense to you. So the roots will not be able to take up the manure just like that, or take up the dry leaves just like that. You need living organisms in the soil to break it down in order for the roots to absorb that nutrients whenever you water the plants. So the water will then send that nutrients throughout the plant, and it has to be that the soil is healthy for the plants to look this good and be this green. So what I did, I fed the soil. Instead of feeding the plant when it starts to yellow, I continuously feed the soil in order for the plants to get nutrients from that. I'm going to show you other ways in which I feed the soil before and while the plants are growing. This is just loaded with all sorts of living things. No, a good, healthy soil, it just does not happen overnight. It's something that you have to build and you have to sustain the soil in order for it to be beneficial long term. One of the benefits, the most important benefit of feeding your soil is for long term fertility and not just a one time fix and a couple of days your plants looking sad again and you need to refertilize. Is for long term. So you want to sustain the nutrients in the soil. And one way that you can do that, or one way that I do that, is to bury the organic material close to the root of my plants that are already growing. Now I'm going to show you how I amend the soil in a minute if it is that I have not yet planted anything in that area. So what I do, I dig a trench close to, are you able to see? I hope you are. And tomatoes are heavy feeders. These need to be fed through the soil often every day. Well, you don't place the amendments there every day, but the plant require a lot of feeding, a lot of nutrients. So I dig a trench close to the root, and these are scraps from the kitchen. I have all sorts of vegetable scraps, and banana peel is really, really one of the most important. They need a lot of potassium. Fruiting vegetables such as tomatoes and peppers. My peppers always does well because I tend to bury banana peel close to my pepper plant in order for them to be fed continuously and for them to continue fruiting. So I just bury my scraps right next to the root of the plant, cover it up. I don't allow it to touch the plant because when some scraps get wet, they can burn or cause the root of your plant to rot. So you don't put it on the root, you put it a little distant away, and whenever they break down, the root will find the nutrients. So you need to sustain the fertility of the plant by keep replenishing that organic material that attracts those beneficial insects to break them down. And once they're broken down, the plants will be fed. Now let us talk about amendments. You've just harvested some lovely veggies from your garden, whether it be cabbage or some peppers or some tomatoes. You've just harvested some lovely veggies based on whatever you amended your soil with, or if it is that you purchased your soil and you want to amend your bed now so that your next crop, for me, guys, I have to keep amending my containers because it's very hard for me to rotate given the limitations that I have growing in containers. If you're new here, then you wouldn't be aware that I garden on rocks only. And so I have very limited options when it comes to crop rotation. The good thing is, guys, I am living close to the woods. And so that is where I get one of my most valuable amendment materials. I would go to the forest and, well, it's not a forest, it's in the woods, it's a woodland. I'll go there and I'll collect worm casting. What is worm casting? Worm casting, it's the dropping from the worms. The worms, it's on the rocks, but the leaves fall to the ground. The worms eat those leaves and they pass out the waste. That is what worm casting is. So I would go there, collect that, and along with my homemade compost, whether it be the rabbit manure or the chicken manure that I have composting, or vegetable scraps, I combine those, and then what I end up with is a rich, dark looking soil like this. Sometimes it's not fully broken down, like this one is not. You might see some leaves or so left in there still, but that is what I use to amend my beds. And like this container, I already place some soil in there. All I do is apply this on the surface. I don't even mix this in, guys. I apply that on the surface of the soil, plant whatever it is I'm planting in there, and then water it in. And that does the trick for my vegetables. And I have been doing incredibly well using this method. If you've been watching Farming on the Rocks for any period of time now, and I did do a full video collecting the worm casting, you know that that is what I have been using to fertilize my plants along with my rabbit manure, chicken manure, horse manure, and that has amended my containers, my pots, my beds, and I have been harvesting and continue to harvest tremendous success. And I have to share it with you because I want each and every one of you who watch my videos to be able to grow food and grow it. I have pest problem, but I eat more than I lose in the garden, and that's because the plants are fed well and they're more resistant to the pest and to the disease when they're attacked. All right, so yes, and you should be able to see insects. I'm looking in there and I'm seeing the bugs crawling. Gardening, you have to be able to deal with bugs. It's just the reality of it because it's what keep the ecosystem in the soil going and makes your soil living. If your soil is dead, you're going to have problems growing food in that soil. That's just how it is. Okay, so you have amended your bed and you're wondering what's next. You've amended your bed and you've planted your seeds. What do I do next in order to keep that, what do we call living soil going? No, in here I have a few volunteer tomatoes, but my container, it is for ginger. So I have a few little gingers coming up. I amended this after harvesting the ginger from here. I amended it, and then the next most important thing to do is to mulch. So if you should pull back this mulch just a little, there are so many activities taking place under there. I don't like to disturb my mulch much because I just love what is going on underneath there. If you pull back your mulch and you're not seeing anything, something is wrong. It's either chemical is in the soil or something that is killing those living things. Ants is a problem, but it's always good to see some amount of ants buzzing around in your soil. It aerates it and it makes it easier for the roots of your plant to access oxygen, which all plants need. So yeah, it's important to mulch after you've amended the bed and planted your seeds or your seedlings. If it is that they're very tiny seeds and they might have problem coming through the mulch, allow them to grow first, and once they're able to stand firm, then you can mulch around those plants. But mulching is critical to keep the moisture in and also to protect those organisms that are living in your soil. Ah, take care of those babies under there. Now, why do we feed the soil rather than to just fertilize the plants? It is simple, guys. The soil microbes, they release the nutrients slowly. As the plants need it, it releases the nutrients slowly as against those synthetic fertilizers. It's a quick burst of nutrients that the plant receive, and as quick as those nutrients goes into the plant, it releases or depletes just as quickly. And so you need to fertilize more frequently. And so it is just logical. It breaks down slowly. The plants collect those nutrients slowly, so it lasts very long. This collard greens plant, I've always said, I don't fertilize it, but looking back, I do, because when I prune, I place the leaves there, and there are so many little worms and so under there, and they're eating it. Some little what are they called? Unicorn snails, ants. They eat those leaves and break them down. In there, these large green leafy vegetables, they need mostly nitrogen. Their leaves are filled with nitrogen. So I'm assuming, well, I know now that these leaves are feeding themselves. And in essence, in the forest, that is how it works. The plants, the leaves, winters, and they break down, and nobody feeds those trees. And when spring, they're the most beautiful. And that's how it was meant to be. They were meant to feed themselves. So unconsciously, I was feeding my collard greens with its own leaves, and it has done exceptionally well. So I say that to say it is better to feed your soil those organic material, and then they take their time, break down in the soil, and then the roots collect those nutrients as they need them. Now these are the dry leaves from the strawberry. And guys, I just harvested two beautiful strawberries from right here. And what I usually do, I crush the leaves. The sun is so hot, guys, and so the leaves are very, very crispy. And I usually just place them back in the containers, and then I water this with my banana tea that I showed you up top. I would water them occasionally with that. I also incorporate crushed charcoal in those liquid fertilizer that also help to retain the nutrients around the roots um in the plants. I published a video a couple videos back, well, more than a couple of videos back, on charcoal. If it is you want to see, if you've not seen it yet and you want to see exactly how charcoal help in the fertilizing of your plants and retaining that fertilizer on your plants for a long time. And these are doing exceptionally well. I'm so proud of them. They're still producing fruit. I have the fruits in little bags. But what I wanted to show you was this pepper plant. These pepper plants, I also use the banana tea and the manure and the worm casting. There's a way for you to tell that your plants are healthy, and usually you see mushrooms growing in there. And if you look closely, there are quite a few in this container, and my son keep pulling them out. I keep telling him allow them to rot in there, but they look so cute, so he keep pulling them out. But that's a sign that your soil is healthy and it is doing well when you see those living things growing out of your soil. And it's fine to just let them be. These cabbages are doing fantastic, and I use the same. When I don't give these to the rabbits, I just take them off and place them there. And rather than this, help in two ways, guys. Pest control as well, because rather than the little worms that stays, or the little snails, I have some little snails in shells. I think they're called unicorn snails. They rather to eat the leaves that are on the ground softening rather than the crispy leaves. So when I place them there, the decomposing leaves, the pest rather to have those rather than my cabbage itself. Now, how does organic matter impact your soil? Whether you have sandy soil or very, very tight clay soil, it impacts them in a positive way. If it is that your soil is too um, sandy and you add some organic material, it will break down and allow the soil to have more body. Now, if you have too much of a clay soil and it's too tight, it will also break down and lighten that soil, allowing for more drainage and for more water retention in your soil. And so, whether or not you are on either side of the spectrum, organic material will benefit your soil. If it is that you have clay soil, you might need a little less. If it is that you have sandy soil and it is draining too quickly and you need more body in that soil, then you add more compost or more whatever it is that you use to enrich your soil in order to have it balanced. Because without balance, you're having a problem. And that's what we want. We want the balance. You look right here, there are so many what's that called? Mushroom growing right on the soil right here. Just tells you that there's something good going on in your container, obviously. Now, in closing, guys, we all want to live in a safer environment. And that, apart from feeding the plants, I think is one of the most important reasons why we should look to feed in the soil rather than using those synthetic commercial fertilizer. To fertilize our plant, it is harming the ecosystem in the soil. Sometimes there is just too much sodium in there. It just kills those living organisms in the soil. it is harming the environment, sometimes on maybe not on a small scale like my garden, but on larger scale. You have those chemicals from the fertilizer leaching into the watering system and causing water pollution. There are so many um, consequences in using. I know my very small contribution to the environment might not be much, but if we have 10 persons do it and another 10 persons and you share it with another 10, we can make a difference in the environment with how we have to be a little bit responsible for what is happening in the environment. And I think this is our little part that we can play in order to keep those water sources safe from those chemicals and also to grow healthier food. Sometimes we get sick and we don't know or they say doctor can't find your complaint, and it is in the food that you're eating. And so I encourage you to take on this approach, feed in your soil. In return, you get nice, lovely, healthy plants growing, and you're eating healthier food. There are some things like the air we breathe in is polluted. There's nothing we can do about it under the sun. But there are some things that we have control over, and that is why I enjoy growing my own food, because at least I can control that little much that goes into our bodies. And guys, I encourage you to do the same. I hope you took something away from this video, and if it is that there is something that isn't clear, then ask in the comment. And if it is that you have recommendations or something that I might not be aware of, also leave it in the comments. For those of you who are watching for the first time and you've not yet subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, press the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post another video. Please guys, continue to share the videos, because I'm sure if it's helping you, it will help others too. All right, thank you guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.